Okay, we're live. It's David Leigh here from the James Bond Dossier, joined once again by Bill Koenig from the Spy Command. And well, say hello, Bill.
Hello, everybody, and it's great to be here again.
I don't know how many people we have got watching at the moment because I don't have that window open that actually tells me that. Oh, five, yeah. Hello, all five people. Great to have you here. If you want to leave a comment, first of all, let us know that you can hear both of us, and uh, where are you from? Because it's good evening here. In from Bill, it's good afternoon. I guess in West Coast US, it's good morning, and wherever else in the world you can make it up for yourself. No comments?
Oh,
Oh yeah, we have.
hello.
Hi, where are you from, Wish Picker?
Well, let's press ahead. It's like, like
Yes.
Bond fans are all over the world, so we know we know that's a fact. So let's
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, so, what do you reckon we're covering tonight then, Bill?
I think we should start with the new Anthony Horowitz book, which I think you and I are like not exactly. I think I like it more than you do, but I don't think we're exactly the biggest enthusiasts of it, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I. Oh dear. Maybe it just wasn't the right time for me because I just had. I've got a lot going, or I've had a lot going on in my life just recently, and then the publishers sent me a book which didn't arrive, and so I wasn't able to do a review in time for the embargo to be lifted. They did send me another one, so thanks very much to the publisher for that. But I was running late with that, and I guess under a bit of time pressure, which isn't the best way to read a book. But to start with, actually, I thought it was going to be really good. I thought the premise was okay. It was a bit shocking if you're a Bond fan, but um, it, when Bond arrives in Russia, for me, it kind of run out of steam a bit. So what's your view of it?
well, I'll tell you. I looked forward to this a lot, but there are two scenes, and I don't want to get too specific, but there are two scenes that appear to be like, well, swipes or steals
Mm-hmm.
from the Manchurian Candidate, the 1962 movie. I actually have a copy of the novel, but I've never had a chance to read it. But like the first scene that evokes it, well, it's not.
You've never read it.
I haven't read it, but it's funny. I got it when there was a remake of the movie of the
Okay.
'62 movie, which
Yeah.
came out in the '90s, I think, or the early
Yeah.
2000s. Um, but so like the first scene in the Horowitz novel, it's not a direct swipe, but it's very similar. But then in the climax, it's like,
Mm.
oh, it's directly like the movie, the '62 movie, and it's like, whoa, like, and then when I got done with the movie, or I'm sorry, when I got done with the book, it just like it was professionally done, but I kind of just felt it was kind of like empty calories. It just like wasn't
Yeah.
the greatest thing.
Sorry, Bill. Can I interrupt? Can you hear me at the moment?
I can.
Yeah, my camera's packed up for some reason. Let me try and sort that out.
Okay. The hazards of live streams.
Yeah, here we are.
Here
I
we
am
are.
here. I
Yeah.
was listening.
Well, okay. Let let me explain what I just said, and I'll just say, okay, if you don't, spoilers, like if you don't want any spoilers, like get off now. But so, like at one point, relatively early in the novel, um, there are all these Russian guys, and so the one Russian guy who's like masterminded this tells everybody, like, yeah, I'll show you I can control somebody's mind. And it was like one of his assistants, and he says like, and he tells his assistants jump out the window,
Yeah, yeah.
and he goes "Eek, ah, ah, ah," and but he does because he's under control, and that evokes a scene in the Manchurian Candidate movie
Mm-hmm.
where uh, the Chinese guy who's been running the brainwashing thing, you know, instructs. No, I'm sorry, I forgot the actor's name, but anyway, the one guy they've targeted, and he tells him like, yeah, kill your best friend, as a demonstration, and so like at one point the guy starts to strangle the other guy, and
Mm-hmm.
the friend says, wait, what, no, no, guy, you have to sit down and take this, you're going to be killed. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And then he gets strangled. Now in the novel, the Horowitz novel, it's not that much of direct swipe, but then at the climax, oh, that's a direct swipe
Mm-hmm.
because um, the guy who's been brainwashed is supposed to assassinate somebody, and so Bond has been brainwashed in a similar way, and he's supposed to assassinate Khrushchev, and but Bond manages to like get
Mm-hmm.
get it out at the last minute, and he kills the the villain instead. But like it's just it's. I guess what I want to say is like when I got to the end of the novel, it seemed really cynical, and it really seemed kind of like empty calories.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very professionally done novel, no question. But it's
No,
like,
he's a good writer,
yeah, no question.
uh, but he's not Ian Fleming,
No,
and if I'm reading Bond, I want my Ian Fleming, which is it's impossible. It's an impossible task. I wouldn't like to do it.
no. And when I did not do a full fledged review, but I
Mm.
did some observations about the novel, and it was like, it's just like nobody's up to the task of being Ian Fleming. It's all, it's just pastiche, call it whatever.
Mm.
But it's like, but that doesn't stop Ian Fleming publications because we're going to get another one before the end of the year with Kim Sherwood. It's like, which I call the James Bond without James Bond novels, and it's going to be a trilogy. And it's like, yeah, just like at this point, it's like, really, seriously, because once upon a time, then it was called Glidrose. When they did their first
Mm-hmm.
continuation novel, which was Colonel Sun, was supposed to be a continuation from. That's why they're called continuation novels. It's supposed to be a continuation from the Fleming novels, and we had Colonel Sun, and then years later you had others. In the '80s, and while they were time shifted, they're still supposed to be a continuation.
Yeah.
And then you had Raymond Benson. That's supposed to be continuation. Now it's like it's just kind of a hodgepodge now.
Mm.
Like, yeah,
Yeah, it's not like they have an overarching strategy, or maybe they do, which is to have these Bond books without Bond. But the-
well. Remember in around 2010, I think it was, they hired Jeffrey Deaver,
mm,
and it was like Project X, and like he was going to do a time shifted Bond novel, but all the other novels that would follow would be based on that. But then it's like, yeah, forget it.
mhm.
and then we had period pieces after that.
Mm-hmm.
And you had William Boyd, and William Boyd, had this novel called Solo, and that like irritated me. I can't tell you how it irritated
Yeah.
me because Ian Fleming publishes says, "Oh yeah, that Solo. It's such an original title. Really?
Yeah. Right.
Seriously? It's like your namesake worked on a project called Solo, which became The Man from Uncle. But like Ian Fleming Publications wants to pretend that never happened
Mm-hmm.
because the reason is because Ian Fleming sold off his rights. So, like, Ian Fleming Publications gets no money from anything having to do with The Man from Uncle. So they want to pretend that never ever happened. And yeah, and they've gone all these things. It's a big mess. It's just you can't take any particular novel project seriously in the sense of tying it into Ian
Mm.
Fleming.
Yeah. One of the things that I was interested in this novel is that some of it is set in Leningrad, which is now St. Petersburg, and I visited St. Petersburg in the 1990s, and so for me, I think one of the things about it that I don't think it did get across was the kind of contrast that you get there. There was a bit of that, but not to the extent that St. Petersburg is an absolutely stunning city in places, but it's just kind of the the kind of typical idea that you might have about Soviet concrete architecture is the rest of it. So you got this contrast with all these palaces, which originally dated from I don't know 17th or 18th century, I guess. I'm not all that up to on my Russian history, and all these kind of 1950s, 60s, 70s concrete hotels and so on. And that didn't really come across, but maybe a bit the kind of drabness of life, because one of the things I do remember there was that the food on the whole was absolutely terrible. It was almost inedible a lot of the time, and which you could understand, because I remember going to supermarkets and they had basically nothing but vodka,
Yeah.
and there was
Yes.
nothing wrong
Yes.
with the vodka, and the funny thing was I remember um, anywhere that you went, like 10 o'clock in the morning, and the first thing that happened was that you were offered vodka,
Oh,
which you needed for the temperature, but the food was terrible. And one thing I did agree with Bond's assessment of Russian champagne
yeah.
is it's utterly terrible.
By the way, I was just checking the comments, and somebody says Bill likes men. Well, if I do or I don't, that's really none of your business. But anyway, and then another comment was, "Are Bill and David wearing the exact same eyeglass frames?" As far as I know, no.
Yeah,
But
they're
there you
standard
go.
issue. They're standard issue.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, again, I do think Horowitz did a lot of research, but again, I go back to when I got to the end of the novel. It's kind of eh, it left me a little empty. It just and I think that gets back to the difficulty in trying to follow the steps of Fleming, because again, Ian Fleming crammed 90 years of living into 56 and a few months. And he worked in British intelligence during World War II, and he was a very accomplished traveler, and he just and this is the big problem I find with the Bond continuation novels.
Mhm.
It's like Fleming had a very eye for the important details of different
Yes.
locations, and like some of the continuation authors, they just cram details for the sake of cramming in details. And I shouldn't say this, but I'll I'll put Raymond Benson right there at the head of the line for that, because
Mhm.
Benson's like very good at analyzing the different details and formula, but like, it's like, unless you've like lived through World War II and all that stuff, it's it's really hard to like recapture that.
Yeah, with Raymond Benson though, he got the job in a very peculiar way, really, because he, as far as I know, he hadn't written any novels before, and he'd written his the James Bond Bedside Companion, which is a fantastic book,
Right.
especially for the time, and
Yeah, he got the deal actually, as it turned out, because I interviewed him once, and
uh,
apparently he got the deal in 1995 in the waning days of that official James Bond convention in New York City. That's but there had been some meetings held in connection with that. So
mhm.
that's when it happened. And, like uh, John Gardner was ready to move on, and Ian Fleming Publications, back then it was called Glidrose, was looking to go in a different direction. So they contacted him, and they had some meetings in the middle of that convention. And then, it eventually happened. But, and I don't want to attack him by any means, because you can't, duplicate Ian Fleming. You just can't.
Mhm.
And Ian Fleming's not the only person, because in the 1960s you had other authors who had like, well, Paul Dane, for example, who worked on Goldfinger. He had a background in British intelligence,
Mhm.
and he was like, he took over from Maybaum, and there were other people like that, and it's just, it just happens. You just, anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and I think for me, one of the things about Ian Fleming is even when he gets the details wrong, you can absolutely believe what he is writing is true. He had an incredible way of communicating that when he said something, you could believe it, and sometimes he wasn't right, but in if you're reading a novel, it's important that you do believe what's going on, because some of what he wrote about was quite fantastical, really. The whole setup about Doctor No and having a private island with his clinic on it is quite bizarre. The Piz Gloria is another bizarre one, and he gets away with it.
He provided a veneer of realism
Mhm.
that, yeah, how should I say this? A veneer of realism that, like, it didn't hide, but like, it made all this fantastical stuff possible. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we've just since we're being heckled in the comments, I've blocked the guy for 5 minutes.
Try not to spoil the book, guys. We're not trying to spoil the book, because, we're dancing around the points we're trying to make, actually.
Yeah. 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 So I. It's probably worth reading if you're a Bond fan. If you like reading, it's worth getting. If you're not much of a reader, then not, I guess.
No, you know what? It's very worth reading. If you like the literary Bond, you should definitely get the book.
Mhm.
So, and I say that as somebody who got it. I did not get a free copy. My
Mhm.
my wife got me my my copy for my birthday.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah. So when I say, go get the book, that's, I didn't get the book for free. So
Mhm. Yeah, well, because I showed this. It doesn't actually have the title of the book on the cover. But it's Double or Nothing.
yeah,
Yeah, and so I haven't read it yet. I will get around to it because that comes out in September. But the publisher didn't let me know what the embargo is on that. So, but I'm not going to I need to find out when I can actually say something about that. Uh, well, I need to read it as well. I better read it before saying anything about it. But I've no idea what that's going to be like.
Well, excuse me. Well, here's the weird thing. So, like with the Kim Sherwood, it's going to be a trilogy. So it's like James Bond is missing, and it's like, oh, what's going to happen to him? He may be dead, but like, here's like three new 00 agents, and like and they're like named after. Well, one of course is named after Johanna Harwood.
Mm,
The screenwriter worked on the first two Bond films for Eon. And okay, fine. Just we'll see how it goes. But
mm.
you know, it's a very weird promotion in my mind.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be about. It's a bit thicker than with a mind to kill. So how many pages is that? Maybe the text is just huge. Yeah, it's like 416 pages. I think the latest Horowitz is like 260 pages or something.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's what half a thumbs up to the latest Bond novel.
yeah. It's definitely worth reading. But again, Horowitz, as much as he may try, is not going to equal Fleming. And for that matter, nobody who Ian Fleming Publications hires is not going to match up to Ian Fleming. And I don't want to go into too much detail, but like William Boyd, and others, but yeah, it's worth a shot.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. In fact, one of the things that I didn't like about it specifically, and it's a problem that I have with all the continuation authors, is that they try and drop too much of their knowledge about Bond into one book. And it's like, well, the example I always give is that Ian Fleming had 14 books across which he talked about a black silk knitted tie and shoes without shoelaces and short sleeve shirts and all this thing. He doesn't mention it in every book. It's there across the 14 books, and in other books you just need to know that that's what he's wearing because you've read enough of Ian Fleming. But it's like in all the continuation novels, it's like on the first page, it's like da 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 Bond 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 Bond. He ties his black knitted silk tie, and the comb of hair flips over his eyebrows, and then he leans down to tie up his shoelaces and remembers he's wearing his slip-ons again.
you know what? I just looked on the comments. Bill wants to boink Lisa. I'm not sure which Lisa he's talking about, but
Yeah,
I,
right.
I, I
Love
think
user.
I think my wife might object to that. But anyway, there you go. Um, but
And there was me thinking you only liked men.
I know I'm getting like opposite
Yeah,
comments
if you're
on
gonna
this.
heckle, at least be consistent.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm laughing. And it's like, well, I hope Lisa, whoever she is, or whichever Lisa this is, like doesn't take objection too much. But I'm sorry, I just can't believe that. Um,
Yeah, well,
anyway, just to sum up on the Horowitz book, it's worth reading. He's a slick writer. It's like, is it the greatest Bond continuation novel? Well, maybe not. Depends on your taste, but
I think maybe his first one was the best of his three.
yeah, and I have a suspicion about that, because probably when he did that one, he thought he'd be like all the other guys, and he would
Yeah.
only get one, like William Boyd and Sebastian Fox and all those others. But then all of a sudden IFP says, "Hey, Anthony, we'd like you to do another one." Like,
Yeah.
what? Really? I wasn't expecting this. That's
Yeah.
speculation on my part, just to be clear. And
Yeah.
then and
But
then he ends up doing three.
he didn't need to do it because I mean he's a really prolific author. He churns out books.
Yes,
Yeah.
and he has his own books, his own IP is um, being at least optioned
Mm.
for movies and such. So it's like he's doing just fine.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
but I kind of wonder if IFP kind of said, "Oh man, like he's doing a lot better job than these other jokers we've hired." So like, yeah, maybe we should get him back. And that's how it's gone. But then he made very clear in the acknowledgments after the end of the book, he says, "I'm done.
Yeah.
We're over here." And I thought this was really interesting. He refers to Robert Markham rather than Kingsley Amis, because
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm done. This is the end of the Fleming
Yeah.
timeline. But
Do you
like,
know? Yeah. I remember. Yeah. I saw you wrote about that on your website, and I wanted to check because I couldn't remember. Yes. Oh yeah, Robert Markham. That's right. I just wanted to see if there was a difference between the British and American versions. Yeah. No. I didn't remember that he said Robert Markham. Yeah.
he did, and I thought that was very, very interesting.
Hmm.
Maybe I'm making more of it than I should, but like everybody knows that was Kingsley Amis who did Colonel Sun
Yeah.
under the nom de plume of uh, Robert Markham, because
Well,
the
in
original,
fact, the last time Colonel Sun was published, it was published under Kingsley Amis's name, I think.
yeah, and of course when Spectre came out, the movie, in the end titles, it
Hmm.
said uh, special thanks to the what was it
It was the estate of
the
Kingsley
estate
Amis,
of
wasn't it?
Kingsley
Yeah.
Amis, yes. So like that's that remains to this day the one time
Hmm.
Eon um, acknowledged a continuation novel, and you have to dig deep, deep, deep into the end titles of Spectre to find that, but it's there.
Hmm. And we have got a question from James C. What do you think? What do you both think of John Gardner series? And let me. Oh yeah, I can put that up.
Well, I have read, I think all of the Gardner stories, and I have most of them in hardback. Not everyone, but close to it.
Hmm.
And it's funny. Before Raymond Benson was hired to do continuation novels, he did in his book about the movie about the Bond movies and novels. He referred to Gardner's as McDonald's compared to the gourmet meals provided by Fleming. And then, like, once he was hired as the continuation novel, did I say that? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Um, but that might actually be a pretty decent comparison in real life.
Hmm. Yeah. Oh, but yeah, I've got the first five in hardback. They were all released in their original covers as a box set of I don't know 10, 15 years ago, something like that, and I got it for Christmas, and so I've only read the first five, and I was pretty disappointed, to be honest. Uh, it's nothing like Ian Fleming at all. Um, it's like wrong car completely chosen, not because Bond would drive it, because it was the author's car, and with the Saab, and so there was one of them. I think it was Icebreaker, which probably was the best of them, but very 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 far below the level of Ian Fleming, and far below Horowitz as well.
You know what? And I would actually say below Gardner's own series of books
Hmm.
with his original characters.
Yeah,
Because it,
I haven't actually read any of his other stuff.
well, he did the, oh God, one of his books was adapted to a movie in the mid 60s, and the Liquidator, the
Hmm.
Liquidator, because um,
So
Shirley Bassey
you
sung the.
didn't. We didn't even advertise the singing.
I know Shirley Bassey sung the title song,
Uh-huh.
the Liquidator, and it was like a title song where Lalo Schifrin did the music, and I don't know who did the lyrics, and the Liquidator was like a very cynical take where the hero basically bumbles through and gets and wins out at the end. And Rod Taylor was the lead character in the Liquidator movie version. And I mean that was Gardner. That was Gardner's kind of pure Gardner. And then,
Mm.
in fact, looking back, like I'm not really sure why the Fleming estate like hired Gardner in the first
Mm.
place, but he was a professional, and I recently did a piece about going through the new Bond novel, Horowitz's new novel, and I said, well, critics say like some of the continuation novels are like James Bond in name only. I had Gardner in my mind when I
Mm.
wrote that, and yeah, it's but they loved him and they kept bringing him back. And I've heard stories where supposedly Gardner says, "I'm done."
Yeah.
Well, here's a lot more money. Like, well, okay,
Right.
I'll come back for it. And then finally he did 14. It's like, that's it. I'm
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Um, anyway,
Yeah. Okay, we have got a question. Uh, okay, let me put that on the screen. Do you think that Double or Nothing is a direct reaction to Bond's death in No Time to Die? I don't want to say that it will continue the story of No Time to Die, but would it have been released also without No Time to Die? Ooh, do you know? Uh, Part of me thinks no, because the books and the films operate independently, but the books do quite often seem to be influenced by what the movies do. So, I'm sure that Ian Fleming Publications had a heads up that Bond was going to die at the end of No Time to Die. Oh, sorry, spoiler. Um, the so I think there's a possibility that it is a reaction to that because possibly also that they are anticipating a bit of a break from the films again because it doesn't look like anybody's in any hurry to find a new Bond.
no. And also, I was just going to say that they have, I'm just trying to think that, they, the Bond novels, when Raymond Benson was brought aboard, he was given a few instructions. One was they have to be time shifted, they have to be to the then present day, and you have to have a woman M like in the movies that Eon's
Mhm.
doing, and there were some other instructions. So that was those were his instructions, and so that's why he did his continuation novels the way he did. And so Ian Fleming Publications definitely takes note of the movies. So whatever we see from IFP going forward will reflect what's going on in the movies. No question.
Mhm. Okay, that's a yes. To answer the question short, yes. Okay. Right. Do you think we've finished with the books, Bill?
I think so. for
Okay.
now. I mean,
Yeah.
until Kim Sherwood's books come out later this fall, I think that's a good place to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, ooh, talking about books, was this one from Edward Biddulph, Double O Dining, a James Bond cookbook.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's because I love Edward's stuff. First of all, he was the Bomb Memes blog, and now he does the James Bond food blog. And oh, I've got his previous cookbook here as well. Uh, so um, anyway, this is just out a couple of weeks ago, and even though it's a cookbook and it's got recipes in it, you don't actually need to be able to cook. It's got tons and tons of information which puts the recipes in context, and so it's a really good read. I'm about halfway through it at the moment, and you know, if you follow Edward's writing, then you pretty much know what to expect. It's more of the same, great stuff. And actually, I'm going to be talking to him next week with a bit of luck. So I want to ask him a bit about the recipes and cooking, because he's a bit of a chef. I like to do a bit of cooking at home as well. So we'll see where that goes.
Well, say hello for me because
Will
he's a great
do.
guy.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. Do you do any cooking?
Uh, no,
Yeah.
I'm terrible at it. So
Okay. Well. So next week we'll do that with a bit of luck. Okay. So. Uh, what has been going on in the last few months then, Bill? Because the last time we did a live stream was March, I think.
yes, well, in terms of the James Bond film world, so at MGM Land, once the deal with Amazon was completed, there were these two executives, Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdy. They were like the co-heads of the film division. And in 2021, Eon said, "We want these two people to stay." And like as soon as the deal was closed, like a month after the deal was closed, they're gone. And they've since landed at Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, apparently Amazon didn't really care for that advice from Eon. Um, and Amazon's still looking for like a new head of for their film division. So I suspect until that happens, there's not going to be a whole lot
Yeah,
of, in terms of
it's
a
not much
James
of a
Bond movie.
surprise though, really, is it? Because when I was in the corporate world, I remember I joined a company, right, the same week that it got taken over, and so it's like all change, and then the company that took us over, um, it it then over the course of the next few months, it split itself in two, and then it floated half of it on the stock exchange. And it was just like the changes there were just constant. It would be like one day you'd be working in one department, and then you and all your colleagues would suddenly have a completely different director to answer to, and it was constantly like that, absolute chaos. So it's if you want to know why a lot of the corporate world is so dysfunctional, a lot of it's because the takeovers are just completely destabilizing internally. So it doesn't surprise me at all.
Well, when a takeover happens, like the people who take over, like they want to do things their way,
Yeah,
and it was so weird. I mean, here's the I'll give you a brief timeline. So in I believe it was May of 2021, Amazon agrees to buy MGM, but it's going to take a long time to get all the regulatory stuff. So then in July of 2021, the New York Times does a story about Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdy, and they were the heads of the of MGM's film division.
Mhm.
And so the New York Times reaches out to Eon, you have some comment, and they sent it was clearly a statement. It was not an interview. It says, yeah, it's like we're like a really important point, and these two people are really important. We'd rather have them stay. And then like a month after the deal closes, they're gone. Like
Yeah.
what was the point of that? So we'll see. I mean, now to be fair, Eon has dealt with this like for decades. Like all these executives come and they go, so this is not their first time dealing with this. But like, I'm kind of surprised they put out a statement to the New York Times back in July
Mhm.
2021 to begin with.
Yeah. 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 Well, sometimes it's impossible to understand why Eon's doing anything.
Well, again, we've said this before on these live streams. Eon is basically a very small independent style company. It just happens to have one of the biggest IPs
Yeah. Yeah.
on the planet. And so, yeah, but like, I don't know. Like they probably should have just said we have no comment to the New
Yeah.
York Times a year ago. But anyway.
Yeah. Too late for that. Yeah. And uh, Barbara Broccoli, she's said a bit about casting a new actor in the role of James Bond. She said it's a big decision. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're not kidding.
no kidding, Barbara. Really? Seriously?
Yeah,
You just discovered this?
yeah. It's not just casting a role; it's about a whole rethink about where we're going. I'm just here celebrating one of the greatest actors in the planet, uh,
Well,
on the planet, Daniel
well,
Craig. That was at the I think it was the opening night of Macbeth with Daniel
yeah.
Craig on Broadway, and yeah, it doesn't surprise me that they're having to have a rethink because for one thing they need to work out how they're going to resurrect Bond.
Well, not only that, but like, okay, like she's been very frustrated. Like Daniel didn't get nominated for an Academy Award. How could this happen?
Hmm.
Well, guess what, Barbara? He didn't get nominated for a Tony Award either.
Hmm.
For that Shakespearean play. Like maybe time to move on, but apparently not from her standpoint.
Ah, damn it! Yeah, I shouldn't have said the name of the play, should I? The Scottish play.
Macbeth. Yeah, in
No,
fact,
that's eternal bad luck on this live stream now.
well, she's complaining. She was complaining months ago about, oh, like, all these, people don't appreciate what a great actor Daniel
Mm.
is. Like, it's like, Barbara, no Bond actor has ever been nominated for an Academy Award.
Yeah.
Ever. For 60 years. Like, do you find this a surprise? Apparently. But, like, stop it. Just stop it.
Mm.
I'm sorry. I'm going overboard. But just, like, how does this go on?
No. And let's see, we've had both John Boyle and John Boyle, um, John Hodges and Danny Boyle talking about their exit from it wasn't No Time to Die at that stage.
Right. It was just Bond
It was Bond
25. But yeah.
25, yeah. And let's see. So let's see, John.
Well, apparently when they came on board, oh yeah, Bond's going to die, and supposedly they were on board with that, but
Mhm.
it came down to like how would you execute that,
Mhm.
and again, this is what drives me crazy, because okay, with their version of the project, oh yeah, we're going to have all these uh, Russian gulag sets done in Canada,
Mhm.
and we're going to have a 300-foot rocket or whatever it was.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, how much money are you spending on
Yeah.
something you eventually like
Well, and they got money from was it Toronto Film Board or
Yeah, yeah,
or something for because which means they must have spent a ton of money there working on those sets.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, guys, like, well, and
Yeah,
again,
but we've talked about this before, but it's just absurd that Bond 25 was going to be Purvis and Wade, and they came up with something, and it was all chugging along at the kind of snail's pace that Eon always operates at these days, and then Danny Boyle and John Hodge approached Eon with their own idea for a script, and they thought it was great at that stage, which is why
and they
they
scrap
dropped
all the
Purvis.
stuff they've been
Yeah,
doing.
yeah,
Like, yeah,
yeah. So the whole thing's absurd.
well, the responsible thing would have been to say to Boyle and Hodge, get back to us for Bond 26.
Yeah.
But like, we're well along the path. But no, like, oh, this would be great. But then they like scrap it and like, and so the movie costs at least 300 million, if
Mm,
not more. And it's like, guys, like this is not the way to run a railroad. Just
mhm,
stop it. And but I've seen people, and not just Bond fans. I've seen some, well, specifically a Forbes.com guy like defend. It's like, oh well, that's how it goes. No, that's not how it goes. You have to be responsible in
mm.
how you spend your money.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely,
Oh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I personally, I've said this before. I think that they'd be better off with less money.
I agree, and I've seen. Oh, I'm sorry. I've been rereading some stuff of other movies where like the movie, the budget was a lot smaller and they had to be more creative, and like that's what happens, like, but like I don't know what's going on with Eon. Like the last few movies, they just I'm sorry. I'm grimacing, I'm growling, and but like, just stop it, guys. Just think about what you're doing. But I don't get the sense they think about what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. No, they certainly don't have a strategy for moving forward. I think that's the problem. They just they just seem to be making it up as they go along, and that's never really a recipe for success in the long term. It tends to always end up in disaster. So, or hopefully it won't end up with disaster for Bond, but well, you never know.
I don't know, but I do think they need a major rethink before they proceed with Bond 26.
Yeah.
And part of that will involve Amazon being the new owners of the studio, but I just don't think they can keep
Mm.
going in the direction they're going. But if I say this, I tend to make myself a target because there's certain Bond sites that like Eon can do no wrong. Well, okay, fine. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's yeah. Too many people are too uncritical of Eon. I think not everything they do is wrong, but if they do make mistakes, I think it's perfectly acceptable to point out those mistakes, as far as our own opinions are, anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And let's think. What else? What else have we got? Um, did you want to talk about the Oscars, or did because our last live stream was just before the Oscars, wasn't it?
Just very briefly, No Time to Die won an Oscar for Best Song. And it's funny now, over the course of 60 years, the Bond films, the Eon Bond films, have won six Oscars, and four of them have been in the last 10 years. And it's
Yeah.
like the last three title songs plus a sound award for Skyfall.
Hmm.
And like, they had gone, the Bond series had gone like almost 50 years without an Oscar. So
Hmm.
that's interesting. So I suppose that Bond 26, whenever it comes out, will be under a lot of pressure to get another
Yeah.
best song Oscar.
Well,
Uh,
I think that these Oscars won't be remembered for the Oscar that was won by No Time to Die, though.
yeah, it's well. Let's just talk very briefly. Um, I do now have a copy of No Time to Die, but I got the soundtrack before that,
Hmm.
and it's a good soundtrack, but a lot of it basically filters from John Barry
Hmm.
and other sources. Like, really? Like, well, I would be curious what you think.
Yeah, it's no, that's exactly what I think. The music's all well, it's not all good. It's 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 fine. It serves its purpose, but it's all taken from John Barry, especially I think, and also a Vesper's theme from David Arnold, um, and I found that a bit infuriating, and I found it distracting when I was watching the film. In fact, because it's just the other people's music kind of leaping out at you, especially when it's from On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And the curious thing is that some of that I think was done deliberately to lull you into thinking um, that the film was going to go one way and she was going to die at the end of it.
Right.
And uh, but the thing is, it's only really hardcore Bond fans who are going to recognise the music enough to be taken in by that. I think so. It's a bit of a curious thing to do.
Well, in particular, there's that one scene where Bond is talking to M at the River Thames, and like you have the theme from On Her Majesty's Secret Service playing in the background,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like that doesn't really fit the scene per
Mm-hmm.
se. It seems to be like playing it for the sake of, well, filching classic James Bond
Mm-hmm.
music, for the sake of doing it. And yeah, again, the whole and also they made a big deal. Oh, we got Hans Zimmer. Well, Hans
Mm-hmm.
Zimmer. Well, first of all, Hans Zimmer made very clear. Oh, I got my sidekick doing,
And Zimmer and
co-collaborating
Friends.
the music. And then, of course, Eon pretended that never happened. But even though Hans Zimmer, reminded everybody that, like, yeah, Steve Mazzaro, yeah, he and I were co-collaborators, but like Eon pretended that never happened.
Mm-hmm.
And also just, yeah, they were just, David, we had exchanged some text messages at the time, and I think you said like what you thought was the best part of the score was from John Barry and
Yeah.
David Arnold, and like I can't
Yeah.
argue with that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. In fact, going back to Die Another Day, and I know everyone listening, watching this will be thrilled about that. But I remember that the last scene with Bond and Jinx, the director wanted to put the music from
you only
You
live
Only Live
twice.
Twice.
Yeah,
And David Arnold didn't want to do it because he said if you do that, people will be taken out of that scene because they'll recognise the music from being from another film entirely, from another composer entirely, and so he made sure that didn't happen. So here we are, 19 years later, and yeah, it happened. And ironically, it was John Barry and his music that was used to do that.
right. And I have to admit, I've listened to that No Time to Die soundtrack a number of times, usually while like jogging or whatever. and so it's like very pleasant to listen to. But I also know, like, I know where I know where this is coming from. It's
Yeah,
coming from John Barry
yeah,
and David Arnold here and
yeah,
there. So
yeah, yeah. And yeah. Okay, just we're coming towards the end. We've got James says, "Do you both own Blu-rays of the Bond series or just DVD?" Okay, that's a bit of a complicated question because I've got all the DVDs, I've got some Blu-rays, I've got just about everything. I've got everything on streaming via Amazon Prime though.
you know what? I have them all by VHS. Like, I'm an old fogey.
Yes, I've got a number of them on VHS as well. Yeah.
And I mentioned this on the James Bond and Friends podcast about Diamonds Are Forever. So, like, for example, on Diamonds Are Forever, some prints, like, Broccoli is first billing and Saltzman's second billing, but on the DVD I have Saltzman's first billing and Broccoli's second. But also on Diamonds Are Forever specifically, they had two crews, one U.S. crew, one UK crew.
Hmm.
So on the VHS, where Broccoli has top billing, the 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 Americans are, have top billing. On my DVD copy, um, the Brits have top billing. It's very weird. It's just, but that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Oh, we have one quick question. Is it true that Eon is the production company behind Macbeth on Broadway? Well, Barbara Broccoli is, whether it's Eon specifically
Yeah,
or
it
some.
was both Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, but I think like three other
Yeah,
producers as well.
yeah,
So I don't know if it was Eon per se, but
right.
certainly the people behind Eon, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a easy answer, but yeah, yeah, Broccoli and Wilson are involved.
Yeah, and well, anything else you want to add, Bill?
No, I think we've kind of covered
Yeah.
the the thing.
I- if we carry on too long, we'll only get more abuse in the comments.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's enough. I've been like reading, like, "Ooh, like what did we do to deserve this?" But no, but I'll just make a quick comment. I think I think it's gonna take a while to find out what Eon's gonna do with
Hmm.
the Bond films. They're clearly not rushing into things right now. So
No, there are a number of people, a number of Bond fans who think they're going to announce something this year. I think it's unlikely,
I agree. I
and
agree.
I think next year's pushing it as well.
Yeah, I think you know what I think Amazon needs to have a sit down with Eon, but whether that happens anytime soon, we'll see.
Hmm. Yeah, and well, and one of the options, of course, is whether Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli want to continue doing Bond with Amazon as well. Maybe they find that they don't get along, and they're better off selling everything to Amazon. And then, if that happens, God knows where we are.
Well, just one very quick note. I have Amazon Prime at home, so I wanted to watch this movie from 1958. It was
Hmm?
released by a United Artists called The Big Country. It was a big prestige western directed by William Wyler, starring Gregory Peck, etc., etc. And I watched it. It was great. It was wonderful. But then at some point, when I stopped watching, it said, you know, they weren't going to show it for more than 22 days.
Mm.
And like, what? So what is Amazon doing? Are they doing some kind of rotation of United Artists movies? Like, I don't
Mm.
know, but that made that. I'll put it that way. That caused me to think about, well, something's going on.
Right, yeah, yeah. Yeah, but sometimes it's like I remember. I don't know if it must have been a couple of years ago, and we watched a film one night, or we watched half a film one night during the week, and it was getting too late, and so we just about halfway through, about an hour into the film, we stopped watching it. The next day, we were going to carry on watching it, and it was no longer available.
That's what, yeah, yeah. That's the problem with streaming. It's
Yeah.
like like this will be my message. If you can get a physical copy, get it,
Hmm.
because like you don't know what happens with streaming. So
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, at the moment, I've got all the Bond films on Amazon Prime, so I haven't actually watched any of them on Amazon Prime, but they're there if I want to.
okay, I think we've hit our limit. So
Yep. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for watching. Apart from the person, I guess it was just one person giving us abuse with various pseudonyms. God, or maybe there are three of them, that three people who hate us that much that they're going to show up on our live stream and give us abuse.
that's how it goes.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
anyway, thanks everybody for joining us.
Thanks to everybody, and thank you, Bill.
Thank you, David. I always enjoy it.
Yeah. Okay. And well, if you just came in on the end, I'm going to end the broadcast, and you can watch the whole thing from the beginning as soon as it's live. Well, not live, but you know what I mean. Okay. Thanks for watching, everyone. See you.